I'm Doc V, and it looks like I'm going to jail. Before you jump to conclusions, we will be visiting some youth detention centers to talk to the young men during the month of June. These young men have been incarcerated, but just for short periods of time. The young men that I'm speaking with, these are not life sentences. They will not be transferred over to the adult facility, but they will be getting out, and they need to have a game plan together that's going to ensure or minimize their chances of being put back in this situation again where they're captive and they don't have a choice, and the rights that we enjoy and take for granted, they no longer are able to experience and enjoy those rights. So the three things we're going to cover for these young men, number one is housing. When they get out, they have to have a place to stay, either with your mom, your dad, your family, housing, some kind of situation. Their living situation has to be set. Boys Club, youth detention centers are rough. So they should not complain when they get out and they're put in a situation where they have to have a roommate, maybe 2 or 3 roommates, or they're living in a housing situation that's temporary, a group home situation. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes relatives, sometimes people will reach out and try to help these young men. So that's going to be the first step. It depends on the age of the young men and what they were charged with before they were put into that situation. This will determine the adequate or proper place to place them for their living. Number 2, income. These young men will need some kind of income. They'll need some money to start off with, food, shelter, clothes. They'll need a start. Then they'll need a job. There are jobs that young men can still obtain if they've had a rough situation, if they got some things in their record, there's some things that are just not looking well to the potential employer. There are some places of employment, when you let them know up front what's going on, they will agree to help or assist these young men. We're going to talk more about that in the future. Thirdly, education and training. The age of automation is upon us. A lot of computerized things, a lot of things are being done through the computer, through robotics, and labor, the need for labor is growing less and less and less. We still need labor. We still need construction workers. We still need carpenters. But there is a wide open field where your computer literacy is going to be a great factor in these young men being able to obtain these jobs. When I was young, when you filled out an application for employment, you just filled out a piece of paper. You put your name, your social security number, your address, where you've worked at before, references. Everything now is done by computers. You put your address, where you've worked, what you've done, and then you put that social security number in there, and that social security number, as I've stated in previous videos, ties your name, your address, your work history, your legal history, ties it all together. So when you put in an application, they know who you are. Now, as far as education, some of these young men will have the opportunity to go back to school and finish their high school and get their high school diploma. Some of them are very reluctant to do that because they were not successful in school. If at all possible, if you can get back into the school, if you're 15, 16, 17, and you can get back into that school that you missed because you're locked up, if at all possible, that is the way to go, because you have teachers that can help you. You have tutors that can bring you up where you're lacking. You have extra credit. You have extra time to turn things in. Go back to school and finish your diploma. Do it. I will try to put together some opportunities where your physiological needs, if we go back and look at my pyramid, where you can get some assistance with these physiological needs. In other words, food and shelter. You're not going to be able to study and get your diploma if you don't know where you're going to sleep and if you do not know where you're going to eat. I've got some plans put together for your particular situations. So, the general education degree, which is the alternative of going back to school and finishing your high school diploma, it is no joke. Some people just think, well, I'll just study, get the study materials, and I'll just go back in and I'll take care of it. I'll just knock it out. The GED is no joke. They're not going to ask you your timetables. They're not going to ask you, what is 444 divided by 4? They're not going to ask you that type of question. Let me give you an example of the type of question that is going to be on the GED exam. Question 1. Given a room 40 feet wide, 30 feet deep, and 15 feet high with an 8-foot sphere inside of the room, they'll give you a formula for calculating the volume of the sphere. And then they'll ask you, what is the cubic footage of the empty space? Can you do that? You're going to need some training. You're going to need some preparation to be able to do that. You also are going to need reading and comprehension skills. They will give you a passage. You'll have a certain amount of time to read the passage, and then you'll have to answer several questions about that passage. Sometimes it's true, false, sometimes it's multiple choice, sometimes it's fill in the blank. What did this passage say? You have to be able to decipher that passage and get an answer. Then you have to be able to communicate at a level of intelligence where they will say, okay, this person, his reading and writing comprehension is such that we will give him a passing grade and he or she can acquire their general education degree, which is better known as the GED. In summary, it's not a picnic. It's not a cakewalk. The GED is not, oh, let me just come up with my $250, whatever it costs, I'm not even sure. And then if you fail it, there's a certain amount of time you have to wait before you can take it again. But this exam is not a joke. People are not stupid. They putting together a test and you just think you can just fill out a few things and then you have equivalency of a high school diploma? No. However, the GED exam can be passed. It can get you to the next level if for some reason you cannot go back to the high school diploma situation. A few years back, I taught GED preparation at a prison. These were grown men. I think the youngest man I saw in there was maybe 22, 23, all the way up to 55, 60 years old. These men were locked up. So they brought about 30 or 40 of them out who had good behavior. They had hope. They had short sentences. They needed to get out. They needed to be prepared. And I was there and I was able to teach some of them, and they were just hungry. They wanted to learn. Okay, how do I do this? We had sample tests, sample exams. We had role play situations, and I was trying to help them. And I was just so touched that these inmates, they knew they messed up. They knew that they made a wrong move, and they were just stuck. And it was time to get them unstuck. So it felt good. It was such a rewarding feeling when I would come back and maybe 5 out of the 30 inmates were able to get their money together and take the GED exam, and all of them passed it. And then they come and they look at me and they say, you know, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get training and I'm going to do this. And they just get excited. And the fact that I was in there helping them to go to the next level, it just did something to me. Sometimes people ask me, well, why do why do you deal with this type of population? You know, they don't care. They're just out there trying to get somebody else's stuff and they don't care. Well, let me tell you something. 50% of all felonies, that's robbery, that's rape, that's assault, even killing somebody, 50% of all crimes are unsolved. Do you know what that means? That means that while you're walking around the mall, strolling around the mall, while you're standing in line, Kentucky Fried Chicken, waiting to get your meal, while you're at Piccadilly's trying to see if you want the Piccadilly dish, 2 for $1, you get a meat and 2 sides, or what, the person standing next to you could be a felon, but he just didn't get caught. 50%, think about that. You're watching the news, somebody gets shot, store gets robbed, windows busted open, guns were stolen, jewelry was stolen, clothes were stolen. Police are looking around, they don't know who did it. There's no leads. The getaway car didn't have a tag on it. When they found the getaway car, it was down in the ditch. Now, I believe that you reap what you sow. There's a spiritual part of me that I bring out or let out when necessary. It is my belief that no one gets away with wrongdoing. No one. I don't care if your mama didn't see it, your husband didn't see it, your wife didn't see it, the police didn't see it. There were no witnesses, and you're like, well, I got away with this thing. I got the money. I'm good. Oh boy, I got bad news for you. In the spirit world, there's an accountability factor, and you're going to pay for that thing. You're going to pay for it somehow, some way. Anyway, that's enough for my preaching. I just want to let you all know that I'm going to jail, but I'm not staying there too long. Maybe an hour and a half, 2.5, 3 hours at the most, probably as long as I'm going to be in there. And when I get in there, I am going to lock in with the brothers. I'm going to talk with them. You don't go in there, they're already beat down, they've already been hurt, they've already been put in a situation where they're not stable emotionally. So when volunteers come in to speak with these young men, we need to bring some positive energy. And I plan on bringing some of that energy because I know you can make it. I know you can take it. No matter what the load. The strength that is within you. I know you can make it. And to make it, it's going to take someone's helping hand to reach in and pull at the minds and the hearts of these young men. Not look down at them, but look right across to them and let them know that you're the same as I am. I'm the same as you. That's the first step. Because if you're honest with yourself, you did something wrong and you didn't get caught. You know you did something wrong. You cheated on somebody. You took somebody's money. You hurt someone. You said something damaging to someone. You put the numbers together and you stole from the store. How many of you ever walked into a store and walked out with something you didn't pay for? Don't lie to me. How many have siphoned gas out of somebody's gas tank? How many have sold some drugs or even took some drugs? How many of you? And you walk around, well, they need to do something about these young men, and you just didn't get caught. You didn't get caught. I'm included in this. There are some things that I've done where it could have been real bad. If I would have just waited a little bit longer, or if I'd have took off running a little bit later, a little bit sooner, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. And from the sound of my voice, I know that there's someone out there that can say the same thing. You didn't get caught. Reach out to some of these young men who are in a situation because of extenuating circumstances, because they didn't have the start that you had, or because there's some kind of oppression, extenuating circumstances that hold them down. They need a helping hand. They need encouragement. They need direction. You are not so good to look down at someone because they've got a record. They did not get their degree, or they don't have a job paying what your job pays because their father was not a good example for them, or their mother gave them up for adoption, or they just got with the wrong people and ruined their lives. You are not so good where you can look down at these individuals and think that you are better than them. By the grace of God, you have that automobile. By the grace of God, you have that house. By the grace of God, you have that education. By the grace of God, you can go on vacations because you could have been in the same situation that some of these young men are in. So, that being said, we know they can make it. We know they can take it. They just need a helping hand. I'm Doc V. See you next time.